Welcome back. Tonight's story is about a woman who sat in the third pew of the same church for 11 years, smiled through every potluck, and then walked into a finance committee meeting with a binder no one knew existed. Pour the coffee. Stay close. My sister-in-law told the church I was stealing. I was the one already hired to audit her husband. My name is Maren Caldwell. I am 47 years old, a forensic accountant in Charleston, and on a Tuesday morning in March, I opened my email to find a message from my pastor with the subject line, "Can we talk privately this week?" I read it twice. The coffee in my hand had gone cold without me noticing. There was a small ceramic angel on my windowsill that my mother-in-law gave me the Christmas after I married her son, and I remember staring at it like it might answer me. Outside, the rain was doing that soft Charleston rain, the kind that smells like wet brick and old magnolia. Inside, my chest was doing something else, because I already knew what the meeting would be about. I had heard the whispers at coffee hour for 3 Sundays. A woman I had baked banana bread for had stopped meeting my eyes, and I knew, with the calm a person only earns after 20 years of reading ledgers, that the rumor had a shape, and the shape had a name, and the name had been sitting across from me at Thanksgiving for 11 years. People who hurt you in quiet ways always assume you will stay quiet too. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight. I want to know who is with me on this one. We moved to Charleston in 2014 because my husband Daniel got a job at the shipyard and I could work from anywhere with a secure laptop and a good lock on the office door. Forensic accounting is not glamorous. It is mostly women like me in cardigans, drinking lukewarm tea, tracing 1 comma at a time until a story falls out of a spreadsheet. I liked the work because numbers do not lie about themselves the way people do. Numbers just sit there and wait to be understood. Daniel had one brother, Wesley, who lived 12 minutes from us in a tall, narrow house with black shutters and a brass pineapple on the door. Wesley had married Bryn Holloway the year before we moved down, and Bryn was the kind of woman who hosted. She hosted Easter, she hosted 4th of July, she hosted the women's ministry brunch every September with little cards at every place setting that had your name in calligraphy. From the outside, the Caldwell family looked like a brochure. 2 brothers, 2 wives, 1 big white church on Broad Street with a bell that rang at noon, and a long pew near the front where we all sat together because Bryn liked the symmetry. But there were small tells. The way Bryn would compliment my dress and then add, "On you, like it." The way she asked every single Christmas when Daniel and I were going to finally have children, knowing exactly why we could not. The way she would say, after a long brunch, "You are so lucky Daniel found someone practical," and let the word practical hang in the air like a wet coat. Daniel did not see it. Men rarely see the knife when it is being slid in through the rib of another woman. I saw it. I filed it. I did not say a word. Wesley chaired the parish finance committee. He had taken the role 4 years earlier when the previous chair, a quiet retired engineer named Mr. Pendle, stepped down for what the bulletin called health reasons. Wesley was charming in the way certain Southern men are charming, all teeth and "yes, ma'am," and he ran the committee the way he ran his marriage, which is to say, nobody questioned him, and everyone clapped when he was done talking. Bryn sat in the front row at every annual meeting and beamed. The first time I felt the floor tilt under our family was the summer of 2024. The parish was wrapping up a 3-year capital campaign to restore the bell tower and the stained glass, and the pledged total had been $1.4 million. The deposited total, as of the June statement, was slightly less. Not by a lot, by about $38,000. Not enough for anyone to panic, enough for a junior staff accountant named Hollis to flag it in a footnote on page 9 of the quarterly report. Hollis was 26 years old, fresh out of school, and she had the nerve of a person who has not yet learned to be afraid of older men. The diocese received that report in October. By Christmas, the bishop's office had quietly retained a firm in Atlanta to look at the books. By February, that firm had subcontracted the parish-level forensic review to a local Charleston specialist with no personal ties to Wesley's committee and a clean conflict check. That specialist was me. They knew my last name was Caldwell. They did not know that Wesley Caldwell was the chair of the committee they were asking me to examine. The diocese had no reason to map the family tree of a contractor. I had every reason not to volunteer it, because by February, I already suspected what I would find, and I wanted to find it cleanly. The triggering moment came on a Sunday in early March. Coffee hour, the smell of weak coffee and store-bought donuts, the squeak of folding chairs on the parish hall floor, the low hum of 40 conversations at once. I was refilling the cream pitcher when I noticed Bryn at the far end of the room, leaning in close to a woman named Cece Vance, who chaired the women's ministry. Bryn had her hand on Cece's forearm. Cece's eyes flicked to me and then away. Just a flicker, the kind of flicker that lands in your stomach like a swallowed coin. That night, I told Daniel I thought something was off. He said I was tired. He said, "Bryn loves you." He said, "You are reading into things." I let it go, because that is what wives do at 11 years in. But the next Sunday, two women I had known for a decade did not save me a seat. And the Sunday after that, my pastor's email arrived. People who decide to ruin you almost always announce it first in a smile. Beat by beat, the rumor took shape. By the time Pastor Howell sat across from me in his small office that Thursday afternoon, with the light coming sideways through the blinds and a half-eaten sandwich on his desk, I had already heard 4 different versions of it from 4 different women who pretended they were telling me in confidence. The story was that I had been skimming from the building fund. The story had specifics, which is how you know a story is engineered and not organic. The story said I had used my accounting access to move small amounts into a personal account over 2 years. The story said the total was somewhere around $40,000. The story said the person who first noticed was, of all people, my own sister-in-law Bryn, who had wept while telling Cece Vance because she did not know what to do. Because family is family, but the church is the church. $40,000. Not 38, 40. Round it up the way a person rounds up when they are inventing a number close to a real one they have seen on a page. I sat across from Pastor Howell with my hands folded in my lap. He was a kind man. He had baptized no children of mine because I had none to baptize, but he had sat with me the year my mother died, and he had not filled the silence with scripture. He told me about the rumor with his eyes on the carpet. He said he did not believe it. He said he was required to ask. He said if I wanted to step back from the Finance Committee newsletter I edited, just temporarily, just while things settled, no one would think less of me. I asked him who had brought it to him. He said he could not say. I said I understood. I said I would not step back. I said I would like him to remember this conversation in about 4 weeks. He looked up at me then. He did not ask why. Something in my face told him not to. I drove home with my hands at 10 and 2, and the rain starting again on the windshield. I did not cry. I did not call Daniel. I went into my office, locked the door behind me, and opened the binder I had been building since February. 380 pages, cross-referenced, tabbed, color-coded the way I had been trained to color-code at my first firm in 2003. The trail did not lead to me. The trail led to a small LLC registered in Wesley Caldwell's name in 2021, with a mailing address that matched a UPS store on Meeting Street and a bank account that had received 17 transfers from the parish capital account over 26 months, each one just under the thresholds that would have triggered an automatic review. The total, to the dollar, was $41,260. She had rounded up by $1,260. She had not even known the real number. She had just known her husband had a problem, and she had decided to put the problem on me before anyone else could put it on him. If you have ever had a family member turn cruelty into a game, drop a 1 in the comments. I want to know I am not alone in this. I want to tell you something about being the quiet one in a loud family. You learn, very young, that your silence is mistaken for stupidity. People who talk a lot assume people who do not talk much are not thinking. They are always thinking. They are just choosing not to spend the words. My mother was the quiet one in her family. She died at 61 of a heart attack in a grocery store parking lot with a list in her pocket that said milk, bread, forgive your sister. She never crossed off the third item. I have carried that list in the back of my wallet for 14 years. I look at it when I am tempted to confuse forgiveness with forgetting. The week after Pastor Howell's office, I did 3 things. First, I called the partner in Atlanta who had subcontracted me, a woman named Adele Rourke, and I told her about the family connection. I told her I had not known the chair was my brother-in-law when I accepted the engagement, which was true because the engagement letter names the parish, not the chair. I told her that the moment I traced the LLC, I had stopped touching the file for 48 hours and reviewed the conflict rules. I told her that under the diocese's own policy, I was permitted to continue because the conflict ran from me toward the subject, not from the subject toward me, and because no familial benefit flowed in my direction. Adele was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Marin, finish the report." Second, I told Daniel. I sat him down at our kitchen table on a Wednesday night with 2 cups of decaf and the binder closed between us. I did not open it. I just told him what was in it. He did not speak for almost a full minute. Then he said, "My brother." And then he said, "My brother." And then he put his hands flat on the table and said, "Finish your job." Third, I went to coffee hour that Sunday and I refilled the cream pitcher and I smiled at Bryn Holloway Caldwell across the room and I let her think I had not heard a single thing. She smiled back. She actually waved. She thought she had won the week. The report went to Bishop Latham's office on a Friday morning at 9:14 a.m. I delivered it in person because that is what the engagement required for a document of that sensitivity. I wore a navy blue suit I had bought 8 years earlier and a pair of low pumps I had resoled twice. Bishop Latham was a small man with very still hands. He read the executive summary in front of me. He turned to page 42. He turned to page 107. He closed the binder. He said, "Thank you, Mrs. Caldwell." He said, "You understand we will need to convene the Finance Committee on Monday evening." I said, "I understand." He said, "Will you be there?" I said, "I am still on the committee newsletter, am I not?" He looked at me for a long time. He said, "You are." Monday evening, 7 o'clock, Parish Hall, the same room with the folding chairs and the donut crumbs, scrubbed and rearranged into a horseshoe. Wesley at the head, in a navy blazer with his charming teeth. Bryn in the second row of folding chairs against the wall, because spouses were welcome to observe. Pastor Howell to one side, Bishop Latham, unexpectedly, in the corner, which made the room go quiet the moment people noticed him. Wesley made a small joke about being honored by the visit. Nobody laughed the way he wanted them to. The meeting opened with the usual reports. I waited. I had learned a long time ago that the most powerful thing in any room is a woman who is in no hurry. When the chair finally said, Any old business? I raised one finger. I said, I have a supplemental report I would like to enter into the minutes. I said it the way you ask someone to pass the salt. Wesley's face did a small thing then. A flicker, the way Cece Vance's eyes had flickered 3 weeks earlier. He said, Of course, Marin. He thought it was about the newsletter. I opened the binder. I did not stand. I did not raise my voice. I read the LLC name. I read the date of registration. I read the mailing address on Meeting Street. I read the 17 transfer dates and the 17 amounts. I read the running total to the dollar. $41,260. I said, The diocese retained me in February through Rourke and Associates of Atlanta to examine the discrepancy first flagged by Hollis Brennan in the September quarterly. I said, The conflict was disclosed to the partner in writing on March 11th. I said, The bishop has had the final report since Friday at 9:14 a.m. I turned one page. I looked up. I looked at Bryn first, because she was the one who had built the rumor brick by brick, and I wanted her to feel the weight of being seen. I said, 3 weeks ago, someone in this parish told 4 women at coffee hour that I had been quietly moving money out of the building fund for 2 years, in amounts close to $40,000. I said, I would like the minutes to reflect that the amount was $41,260. I said, and I would like the minutes to reflect that the account it came from was the Capital Campaign. And I would like the minutes to reflect that the account it went to was registered in the name of the chair of this committee. The room did not gasp. It did something quieter. It exhaled. It was the sound of 40 people realizing at the same second that the woman they had stopped saving a seat for was the one telling the truth. I looked at Bryn one more time. I said, You told Cece Vance the number was around 40,000. You were off by $1,260. You should have asked your husband for the receipt. That was the line that did it. That was the callback. 3 weeks earlier, she had wept in the corner of the parish hall and called me practical with a number in her mouth that was not hers. I gave her back the number with interest, and I did not raise my voice once. Wesley tried to speak. Bishop Latham raised one hand. Pastor Howell closed his binder. I closed mine. I stood up. I said, Thank you for your time. I said it the way you thank a cashier. I walked down the center of that horseshoe with my low pumps making a small sound on the linoleum, and I did not look at Bryn as I passed her because she did not deserve another second of my eyes. If you have stayed with me until now, thank you. Tell me in the comments what part of the story stayed with you the most. I drove home in the dark on Broad Street with the windows cracked because Charleston in March smells like wet brick and old magnolia and the inside of a church between services. Daniel was waiting on the porch with the light on. He did not ask how it went. He could see how it went. He just held the door open and made me a cup of decaf and sat across from me at the same kitchen table where I had told him a month earlier what was in the binder. In the quiet, I thought about the little girl I used to be, the one who learned at 8 years old that quiet women get talked over, and quiet women get blamed, and quiet women carry the grocery list in their pocket until the day their heart gives out in a parking lot. I told her, in my head, the thing I have wanted to tell her for 39 years. I told her that being underestimated by loud people is not the same as being small. I told her that the work she would learn to do, the slow, patient work of tracing one comma at a time, would one day be the work that saved her name in a room full of folding chairs. I told her that she did not have to forgive on anyone else's schedule, and she did not have to forget to be free. I told her that the angel on the windowsill could stay, because objects are not the people who gave them. and a woman gets to keep the parts of her life she has paid for in full. Bryn moved out of the tall, narrow house with the brass pineapple by July. Wesley accepted a quiet separation agreement with the diocese that involved restitution and a permanent removal from any fiduciary role in any parish in the state. Pastor Howell asked me in August if I would consider chairing the finance committee. I said no. I said I would edit the newsletter, and I would refill the cream pitcher at coffee hour, and I would sit in the third pew where I had been sitting for 11 years. Some seats you do not give up just because someone tried to take them from you. The ceramic angel is still on my windowsill. The grocery list is still in my wallet. The third item is still uncrossed, and I have made my peace with that. Forgiveness is a private ledger. Mine balances now.